Welcome to another episode of the Federal Newswire's Business of America podcast with your host, Jerry Rogers.
Welcome to another episode of the Business of America. But wait a minute. You know, every episode I say this is the best show that we've done, and truly this is. Let me tell you what. I told this story once. My grandma used to make a meal for my grandfather every day, and they were Irish immigrants. And he would say at the end of the meal, "Oh, Katie, it was the best meal I ever had." But my grandmother would get angry because she would be like, "Well, what about yesterday's meal?" This truly is the best episode, and we haven't even done it yet. And I'm telling you right now, it's the best episode. So stay right there. I'm going to let this gentleman, this actor, this entrepreneur, this teacher, this friend, this advocate, I'm going to allow him to introduce himself. But I'm going to first let you know who he is. And Ray, I don't ever do this, Ray, but I actually pulled up your resume.
Oh,
I like to do the spontaneous, in the moment kind of thing. But for you, listen to this, Business of America audience. This young man, I can say that still, right? Can I still call you young man?
Love hearing it.
In the theater on Golden Pond, 6 Degrees of Separation, Othello, Anything Goes, The Jungle Book, The Odd Couple. Are you kidding me? On and on and on. Film. You've been in film. I know that last Christmas, the Rogers family got a kick out of seeing your Christmas special on what network was that?
Hallmark.
On Hallmark.
Yeah.
But not only is Ray an accomplished actor, he's a teacher, and we're going to talk about that because he's an entrepreneur in terms of where he teaches here in Washington D.C. The National Conservatory. Am I right?
National Conservatory of Dramatic Arts,
which is right here in the D.C. area. Now, again, I haven't introduced him yet. This is a real build-up, right? Usually, we have a nice window in back of me of Washington D.C., or we have my favorite books in back of me. Now, today in back of me is the Irish American Rogers combination flag. There's American flags. There's the St. Bridget's Cross, a mug that says Sláinte. There's the Rogers crest. There's a little bottle of whiskey back there too, Ray, if you haven't noticed. My favorite. Tell them we're due. Because I also want to talk about the importance of immigrants to the American dream and to the business of America. And so, Ray, just to give you a little background on our show, because again, this is spontaneous. Ray and I have not planned this out. This is going to be a real conversation with an entrepreneur. This show is about, the ethos is men and women in the arena. It's easy to be on the sidelines. Teddy Roosevelt's in the arena. It's easy to be on the sidelines. It's easy to criticize and say, why did he pick that part? Why is he working in that school? Why is he investing in that business? The hard thing is to be a doer. And so let me say this. Ray Ficca is a doer. And Ray, let me just introduce you. Ray Ficca to our audience. Why don't you tell us a little bit about yourself?
Well, thank you so much for the build-up, Jerry. Yes, Ray Ficca. I am an actor, director, producer, writer, songwriter, anything in the entertainment business where people will look and listen. I am happy to oblige. You know, art is self-expression, and I just love the whole concept of that. But really about myself, I'm a happily married man. I live in Arlington, Virginia, and my wife and I enjoy our life together doing many things, but we also really enjoy our school, which is the National Conservatory of Dramatic Arts, which is the only licensed and accredited acting studio from here to New York City. And you'd have to go south all the way to Atlanta to find our same accreditation and our same type of program. And I'm a proud graduate of Georgetown University.
meet me down in Georgetown, right?
Meet me down in Georgetown. If you're, my band is the Bedrocks, and I'm the proud son of an Irish immigrant.
Well, let me pick it up there because, again, for our audience, we think of innovators, scientists, angel investors, business owners, traditional business owners as the entrepreneurs. But I think we ought to consider the hard work, the risk taking that goes into going into the arts. And America has a beautiful history of the arts. I mean, we invented the movie, for crying out loud. I mean, right? I mean, the Hollywood
Broadway
experience.
musical.
The Broadway music. You know, it's so funny. I was talking to my daughters about this yesterday. There was a time when Broadway wasn't Broadway. It was really England. It was the West End. And then all of a sudden, the musical. It was the musical that put Broadway, America, on the map, uniquely American. So this is entrepreneurial. But I want to ask you this about your parents. We're going to talk about your mom, Peg from County Cavan. But I also want to talk about your dad a little bit, because I was introduced to your dad as Chief.
Correct. Yeah.
And here's what I remember about your dad. I remember him being filled with wisdom. With a kind of strength that came out with how he raised his 4 boys and daughter. I remember years ago, you and I teaching at Iona, and you would go to your dad with a question or a challenge, and in a phrase, you know, almost like in a not Walt Whitman, but in a poetic way, would let you know in a phrase the right thing, the wrong thing to do. Now, your father, before we get to your mom, your dad was involved in business, right? I think you called him Chief because he was wise and strong, and he was a center of your home, and he loved your mom and the kids. But he went to Fordham University. He played football there, and I think he was a success in business. Tell us a little bit about your dad.
Well, my dad, yes, he was. Oh my gosh, was he such a proud graduate of Fordham University? He went to Fordham, and he went there. He was from a small coal mining town in Pennsylvania, and his parents were from Italy. He was born in the apartment in Pennsylvania, and he got an opportunity to go to Fordham because of his football playing. And while at his time in Fordham, he was wildly successful, winning the old Maddow Trophy of the game between NYU and Fordham. And Korea happened. The Korean conflict happened while he was at school, and he said, "Well, I've got to sign up." That was his thing. He said, wait a minute, I've been given all this glorious opportunity that nobody, first to go to college, nobody in my hometown ever had. So he signed up for Korea, joined the Marines, went to basic training, and, then the conflict was over. And then he said, well, I've got to go to school. He went to Georgetown University on the GI. Got a law degree from there, got a doctorate in law from GW, worked for the SEC for a while, Securities and Exchange, and then got a job with Kidda Incorporated, a corporation in Clifton, New Jersey, where he was on the legal staff and then worked his way up to CFO. And you're right, he was a very soft-spoken man. He said very little, but whatever he said was a total gem. And he was very proud of everything the country had given him, and that's what he instilled in us. He also wrote a letter to the New York Times about Social Security, saying, I've done very well for myself, and I don't need, I would just like back what I put in, plus minimal interest, and when I get that back, give it to someone else who actually needs it. And he was that type of guy, and he'd get his Italian up, and he'd often write the New York Times probably once or twice a year when something really burned him. And he was a great man. We lost him in 2013, and as you would expect, one of the biggest funerals you could imagine in northern New Jersey. There was 2 bishops and 4 priests there. It was like the Super Bowl of celebrations of life in Most Blessed Sacrament Church.
Yeah, I remember your dad's funeral. If our audience hasn't keyed on this yet, Ray and I are good friends, are friends for a long time. And but here's what I remember about your dad's funeral, and that is all the men and women and families and others and your friends who showed up. I really do think, and my dad taught me this, that we have an obligation, we have a duty even to honor those who've gone and honor those who, again, like your father is, his life is the ethos of this program, why we do this. He's someone from, his immigrant parents worked hard, but he came out of nowhere, went to school, and then went to war, or willing to go to war, came back, went back to school, earned his degree, did his, you said the SEC, did his public service again, right? And then went into private business, and raised a family, and was successful by any definition, not just by the size of his bank account, but by his children and grandchildren, and his friends. And again, this is why I want to talk to you, because I'm sure a lot of that entrepreneurial spirit, that sense of honor that your father that he characterized and he displayed is in you. But before we get to you, I know this is going to be. I got to talk. We got to talk about the girl from County Cavan.
Oh.
And before you say anything, again, I got a big mouth, Ray. I can't stop. So Ray and the Bedrocks recorded the song not long, 4 weeks ago, not long ago. I discovered it on social media, and it was you, so I played it. But then I was like, this is fantastic, and I love Irish music. But why I like Irish music is because it tells a story.
Yes.
Because it tells a story, and this song tells a wonderful story about a girl from County Cavan, and it's your song anyway. But I've been driving my family crazy because I've been singing it and humming it every day. My son Liam's now doing it. So
it's got a nice little chorus.
It does. But tell us before you tell us about the song and the Bedrocks, and again, more about the school, tell us about your mother.
Well, my mother and her family, Margaret Mary Bridget Kennedy was her name.
Yes.
And
who married an immigrant, a child from Italian immigrants.
Yes, that's right. That's right. She and her family, her mom was a Brady. Her dad was a Kennedy. They were from Cavan, Ireland. And they came over. My mother was very, very young. When they came over here, they went through Ellis Island. And the Bradys were horse trainers back in Ireland. So they went to the various parks. So I had an uncle, a great uncle at Belmont in New York. My uncle Josie was at Belmont in New York. My uncle Pete was down in Florida. And then a couple times through, they came through Laurel and were trainers there. Very proud horse traders. So they were, and my uncle Josie died with a pile of cash under his mattress. So he lived in the stables, and so they were great. They were great folks. They were fun folks, and they were wonderful storytellers, as you know. So my mom's family, the Kennedys, settled in the D.C. area, and moved around a lot. My grandfather did a lot of different things, and my mom went to Notre Dame. I think it was Notre Dame Academy, which is now, it's no longer, but it was right across the street or right next to Gonzaga.
Okay.
Gonzaga High School.
In Washington, D.C.
In Washington, D.C.
The football powerhouse it was years ago. Yeah, sure.
Yes. And then, it came time for her, she had a little brother, and it came time for college, and the parents couldn't afford college. College was for, the young men to go to college. So my mom took a job at Georgetown University Law. And that's where she met my dad. And she thought he was the cockiest SOB. Her job there was processing VA, the GI stuff. And she said, he walked in there with hush puppies or something on. And he was, because he'd just gotten out of the Marines and was playing football in the Marines.
Sure, yeah.
So he still had that swagger. And so met in Washington, D.C. I was actually born in D.C. And then when Dad was working, downtown, and then we moved up to New Jersey.
I tell you, you said your dad was cocky. The like father, like son, I think.
Well, there's a bit of confidence too.
Yeah, yes.
Nobody else is going to have it for you, Jared.
I'm just going to say this. So I'm not sure you can see this, but this is the autobiography, Rod Stewart.
Yes.
I think Rod Stewart is the coolest guy in rock and roll. I've always thought this. And if I had to describe Ray Ficca, I'd say he's the Rod Stewart of whatever he does.
Oh, that's
so speaking of whatever you do, tell us now about the school, because this is look, I'm gonna guess something. I'm gonna make a conjecture. It's not easy to run a school and to keep it open and to make sure you're serving your students well and all the rest. There are challenges to this. So tell us about the school and how you deal with it.
There's many challenges. See, we're, like I said, we're an accredited acting program, and we're accredited like a technical school. And the business of the arts is a risky business as it is.
Yeah.
So when our students come here, my wife Nan and I run the place. Our goal was to do everything we possibly could to keep tuition manageable. We didn't want to saddle folks going into the arts, which is such a difficult business financially, to be saddled with $40, $50, $60, $70,000 worth of loans. So if you went to a similar program in New York City, you would probably pay 3 to 4 times the amount in tuition alone. And I mean, these are fantastic programs, but that's probably our biggest challenge financially. But, our kids, they're in their 20s, our median age is 27. We get folks who are as old as 70 who want to, change careers or develop a new career. And we have students come from Baltimore all the way down to Woodbridge, Virginia, and a mix of every demographic you can imagine. And we're all working towards the same goal, which is to build creators in the arts. We, from our accreditation, I tell the students, we've got a contract here. My job is to prepare you from A to Z how to be a professional artist. Your job is to show up and do the work. That's our contract. And proudly, we're still here with all the turbulence of the pandemic and the changing of the arts. I don't know if you know this, but theater has always been getting beaten around, regional theater, financially, because the world changes so quickly. But now even Hollywood is feeling the financial constraints. The big studios are now having to constantly reinvent themselves. So our biggest challenges, Jerry, to answer your question, are keep tuition low. So a kid from the KIPP school or Anacostia High School, or Ballou or Duke Ellington can come here and have a manageable tuition situation where, where in New York it could be $25,000 a semester. It's $5,000 a semester here. A manageable situation, and then get exposed, get exposed to all the tools that they need and all the practice they need. It's a lot like training for a sport, to go out there and present themselves and to make their way in the arts. And in the arts these days, you have to be your own advocate, and you have to be your own creator. And that's what I got from my dad. I said, Dad, I got great grades my freshman year in college in accounting and finance. My best grades were in accounting. I said, Dad, I can't do this. I got to be an actor. And he said, make sure you're the best one you can be, which is great advice. Be a gentleman, which is also great advice. If you use that advice, be a gentleman all the time in your life, things work out very well for you. And he said, you've got to find your way, because nobody else is going to do it for you unless you're making them a lot of money.
So the wisdom of Chief.
I know. And it's just 3 words. And then he didn't say anything for the rest of the day. But then, so that's what this school, self-creators, and self-entrepreneurs. Every actor walks out of here and say, you're your business. Now go create and go fill the niches that have to be filled, and go be the best you can be with the information you've been given.
Again, what you're saying could be applied to innovative the medical field, to someone who wants to find the cure for cancer. It could be applied to someone who is launching a vitamin business and wants to offer something new and different in the market. This idea of working hard, creating, showing up. You've said this a couple of times now. your contract with your students. You show up and do the work. Let me ask you this, because you know, it seems to me you said Hollywood is changing. Our culture is changing a wee bit, insofar as, and maybe I'm wrong. I mean, this is, again, I'm going to throw this out there, and you can disagree with me. The idea of showing up and working hard is more and more the novel approach. I mean, you know, I look. I know you played football. I know you played football.
Yes.
And I coached football, varsity football, and it's amazing the shortcuts that athletes are looking for. We're training, and we're doing we're doing 10 100s, and yet they want to go 95. No, go the 5 extra yards. You're cheating yourself. And so this idea of showing up and doing the work, this is novel. I think it's novel. I think we should reintroduce it. You tell me
it is very novel. It's especially and it's not their fault. It's what they're being taught.
If I had a ding or a buzzer, I'd just ding you correct right now.
Because children learn what they live.
Yes.
And they're living now that, you don't. Now there are always special cases, and that has to be considered. But if you don't feel like it right now, then you don't have to work that hard today. If you don't feel like it right now. And a lot of the students who come to us have been taught that. And you can take 2 approaches, which I take both of them. There's a little bit of football coach, like, well, nobody else is going to do it for you. Mm-hmm. And that this business is tough because I've done it all now. You read a couple of things for the resume, but I've done it all. It's tough business. And then the second part of the approach is, check out what I got here. This is going to make you feel better than any free time you took in the library because you weren't feeling right for the test. And you're going to really love this, Jerry. And it's the God honest truth. And I have a big enough sample size. They don't know the classics, but they love the classics.
You just hit on another podcast.
I have been through every single seminar that says, you've got to teach the kids what they're experiencing today. And I say, no, I don't. They go on their phones and they experience that enough. We had a class of students, and everybody else thinks in this way, so I'll just throw it out just to satisfy everybody else. My school's been 20% white since 1998, 80% minority. Nobody cares. Nobody thinks about it. Nobody, we exist, and we exist well. Introduce them all to a Greek play. Introduce them all to Shakespeare. Introduce them all to Ibsen, Strindberg, all the classic turn of the 20th century writers. And I ought to put paper down because it's just a big mind explosion of these kids. And they get hungry. They get a passion, and they get a little bit of gentlemanly swagger, which my dad had back in law school. And it's really, I just wish so many of the folks who are outside of the arena could just come and watch this kid who wouldn't know Shakespeare from Adam's Cat. Watch this kid read Shakespeare for the first time and go, oh man, he's going to cut his heart out. Wow. And they get so passionate about it. So that's 2 things. You got to be half a football coach and half a, hey, I got a secret. None of those folks have told you yet.
This is interesting. I want to ask you a question because I know that you're engaged in the arts, but I also know that you were a high school teacher.
Correct.
And I know from experience, because I taught in a classroom next to you, that you were a great teacher. You think about the Dead Poets Society or the other movies where Treat Williams was in a movie where he was a tough guy teacher, and and on and on and on. There's always there's a lot of good Hollywood about that good teacher. Mm-hmm. You were that good teacher, and so and so teaching is about words. Mm-hmm. It's about acting. It's about being active. The guy who hired us to teach at Iona Prep in New York was a guy named Brother Mark Stanicky. And I remember Brother Stanicky telling me, he must have told you the same thing. He said, look, you can't teach anything, Jerry, if the kids aren't engaged and you don't have control of that classroom.
Correct.
And so, and how I engaged and how I got control of that classroom was by being who I am, and that is I tell stories, and I'm animated, and I'm in back of the room, in front of the room, and I'm telling kids about my mom in the Bronx and and this sort of thing and whatever. And I know you're similar. You're a wordsmith. So here's my question. I make a long story longer to ask a simple question.
Go ahead, ask your question, but I remember we taught, I want to tell you I have one great memory of us teaching next to each other.
All right, I'll come back to that. But real quick, I know you've directed, you have, I don't know what it means to produce, but maybe you've produced.
Yeah.
You have to tell me offline what it means to be a producer. But you have, there's a book in you. When is the Ray Ficca book coming out?
I've thought a lot about that. I've thought a lot about the story, and we were joking. I just had my 35th college reunion, and one chapter is going to be called "A Funny Thing Happened to Me on the Way to My College Degree." Put a little bit of theater in it, because I was, in college, kindly, I was, to use this metaphor, I was spraying bullets. I'm like, let me just, like a bumblebee, let me soak up everything I can. And unfortunately, sometimes academics were just a part of the category until the grades came out. I'm like, all right, more academic. But yes, I think it has been a heck of a journey, and I'm proud of it. It's been a hard journey. And, every time you say, oh, enough, you think back maybe on what the journey was, and you go, oh, for crying out loud, Ray, just get in there and keep finishing the job. But yes, I would love to. I have thought about it, Jerry. I've thought about the book, and because I do think, I do think everyone has a story. Everyone has a story, and there's some good parts and there's some bad parts. We stumble along on part of it, and then we sprint on part of it. That's the way life goes. And if you want it anyway else, it's not going to happen. And I think that's a thing that young people need to be told. If you want it easy, well, first of all, find the guy or gal or person who said it's going to be easy and just say shame on you, because it's not going to be easy. Easy is not fulfilling. Noel Coward once said, the great thing about this work is that it's so much more fun than fun. Sitting around having fun with your friends pales in comparison to an artist's work or an athlete's work.
I have another question for you, but before I ask you, tell because I want to hear something about myself.
Well, very good. Well,
because I'm an egomaniac with an inferiority complex.
Very good, very good. It's okay. You should be in the arts. You actually have been teaching at Ione a year before me, I believe, and so you kind of mentored me. And of course, Mark Stanicki was fantastic. And they put us next to each other in this long hallway, and we would often teach the same subject.
Right.
And we would follow similar career, but you have to be, it was a school with all boys, all high school boys, and they're revved up, they're ready to go. So both of us seemed to be very loud when we and we kept the doors open because there was no, door open. Hey, you don't like what's going on? I can see it right there. It's wide open for you, but stay here and listen to what's going on. So we got very loud. The volume got up. And one of our great friends, George Teasdale, said, oh my gosh, walking down that hall, I feel I'm in the Bible Belt. So they used to call that hallway the Bible Belt because we were both teaching religion, religious studies.
But again, I think we were also excited about it. There was a passion.
You have to have a passion for it.
Yeah, and which leads me to this question, and that is, we're talking about the arts now. We're talking about your school. We're talking about your experience. But it seems to me you haven't said anything in terms of being an entrepreneur. It's about passion. It's about working hard, showing up, but it's about the passion too. How can someone who's in finance, I'm going to put you on the spot, someone who's in politics, someone who's in science, you name it.
Right.
How can they take a page out of the Ray Ficca playbook and apply it to what they're doing, to what you're teaching your students in the arts, and apply it to these other fields, to be an entrepreneur, to be different, to be successful, to do it your way?
Well, I've done a lot of corporate gigs, if you will. It's either it's sometimes falls under entertainment, sometimes falls under motivational, but it's simply to exercise the old yes and instead of no. And that's the basis of acting, is the give and take. Now, I have to tell my students, there are such things as not so great questions. There are things that you get wrong, but you have to listen. You have to listen. And if you listen to someone, that is as effective of them gaining your perspective better as you gaining theirs. And you have to and students these days, everyone should walk into a classroom with 22-year-olds, because you have to listen to them. You have to understand where they're coming from before they'll even give you the time of day. So in business and in finance, you listen, because there's always one tidbit that you'll walk away with, even if it's like, I don't think I want everybody thinking like that, so I've got to do my job better to make sure they don't. So the old yes and, Jerry, I could go for hours, but somebody says something to you like, Ray, you're only half Irish. Yes, Jerry. But think about this. And then there's the conversation. And we've totally lost that. We have totally lost that. And in business, it can get lost because your eyes on a prize, but sometimes you forget what's along the road in the journey.
It seems to me, Ray, that's good advice for the public discourse.
Correct.
A lot of our conversations as friends has been about the public discourse and how ugly it's become. Mm-hmm. I think that maybe Chuck Schumer, the leader in the Senate, and the Speaker of the House, maybe they should come and take a class at your school to learn the yes and you don't have to get it all your way all the time. Get a slice of bread, and you don't need the whole loaf,
correct,
so to speak. Let me ask you this, because I'm intrigued. My daughter Bridget loves the arts, loves the arts, and when she was in high school, was in all the musicals, and even now she's introduced musicals in particular. We were talking yesterday about it's called Merrily. Am I saying that
Merrily
right?
We Roll Along.
Yes. We were talking about that yesterday, and it's run up in New York. It's coming to an end, and she loves it, and that's Soheim. Who's the Sondheim? I'm sorry. Yes, and so see, I'm learning as I go.
There you go.
But she loves this. But when she was leaving high school, she thought about going to an art school. Mm-hmm. And so I want to ask you that question. So is this just postgraduate, or can right out of high school, can folks attend your school?
Right out of high school, actually. Right. And we've become quite the popular gap year, which I think is tremendous. A lot of parents come to us and say, well, he wants to get into the arts, or she wants to get in the arts, and they feel like, but the parents are a little nervous about that because college is such a big expense.
Sure.
So they come here for a year. They can see if they like it. And we're more rigorous than any college program. The parents can see if they like it. And, depending on the college, our credits, because we are accredited, are transferable.
Okay.
The local Virginia colleges have been fantastic to us. To our students, I should say, of taking our credits and saying, okay, and there's a lot of competition with colleges now, so that's not such a bad thing. So we are post-secondary, and we also accommodate the GI Bill. So we get a lot of folks when they retire, they do their 4 to 10 years. They say, okay, I want to go try something else, and they come here. And the work in Washington, D.C., Jerry, is great because although it's too expensive to film a lot of TV or movies here, I can't tell you how many government training films I've done.
Oh, wow.
I just did one. I was down at by the Folger Theater I think it's Workplace Rights for Congress, that building or that office. And I just, they're training videos that that happen all the time. I've worked with the FBI, I've worked with TSA, I've worked with NIH. I'm even learning what all these little, NIH, all these little anachronisms.
NIST and the
so that is very popular work in this area, and we cast a really wide net here, and a lot of the producers call me and say, okay, I need this type, this type, this type, and this type, which is another thing we have to get in students' heads. God made you one type. So if you can be really good, but if somebody's looking for another type, don't take it so hard. Your goal should be, when I need that guy, he's the guy I want. But people want different things, but this is a fantastic area.
Right. So I'm listening to you, and I'm thinking again, not only what you're saying and what you're implementing is applicable to the public discourse, but also to the kind of cultural challenges we have. Mm-hmm. It's okay to be who you are. It's okay to be who you are. I mean, I know that's
who you are.
No, I know, but I mean, but some. It seems to me that we're always pushing to be something different or take away that from someone else. And it's okay to play in your yard. It's okay to be who you are, and it doesn't mean you can't change and grow and be different. But I'm going to ask one more serious question, and then I want to ask you about the bedrocks, and then I'm respectful of your time. I have 5 kids, this, and 2 went to Catholic University of America, the Catholic University of America.
Yeah, right.
And my third decided, Dad, Mom, even though she got into all the schools she wanted to get into, including Catholic, she decided to do the community college. And she wants to do that for a couple of years and then transfer to the Maryland University of Maryland as a program.
Great.
And at first I was like, well, no, you can't go to, I went to Bergen Catholic High School. I went to Fordham University. We go to Fordham. We go to Georgetown. We go to Catholic University. This is what we do. And she's like, no, that's not what I'm going to do. And I prayed about it and we thought about it and we talked about it. It's her choice and she's doing it. But it leads to this question. Should kids, I say kids, should these young adults, 18, 19, 20, and 22, like you're saying, should they think differently about university, think differently about college, and think more about what you're offering or maybe what trade schools are offering? Mm-hmm. I mean, is the environment of education changing at that level, at the higher education level?
I think you're absolutely right. And what you were saying that, I said to myself, well, Montgomery Community College has one of the best acting teachers in the area.
No kidding.
Gent by the name of Sasha Olnick. He's fantastic. And what a great path. Yes. The college, it will sound a little goodwill hunting, but so much information is out there. And there's so much credible information that you can find out there that the old classroom model that we had, where I didn't have a computer in college. We didn't have the internet. That was required. That was needed. But now, with the changing world, and I'm always a hopeful guy. I think it's changing for the better. I really do. With all of our troubles, we have a ton of those. These kids have so much opportunity. And yes, I think they should drive their education a little bit more than what the norm was when we were growing up, because it's out there. And I'll tell you this, I took Bergen Community College was the best history class I ever had.
Nope.
I took a history class at Bergen Community College in New Jersey on Hitler and World War II, and I was stunned how much I learned in that, because it was summertime, 1920. I didn't want to be, and it was an 8 p.m. class, Jer. You believe that? And so yes, I think students must look at different alternatives, because they're, some people say this is the smartest generation. I'm not sure about that. They are clever. They know, they see things we don't. They have horrible sense of history, but they are they have their niche. They can do what we can't do. So, and it's out there. Go find it. And there's no better place than, I am a good patriot, but there's no better place in the U.S. It's out there. You go find it. And from the show Chorus Line, when the one girl's in the one acting class in high school, and the teacher's too hard on her, and he's being very harsh and very unfair, the angel comes down her shoulder and says, "Go find a better class." Because it's out there. It really is out there, and I'm so happy to hear about that, because I think Nova in this area is fantastic. I think I've worked a lot with Montgomery Community College, like I've told you, and a lot of good happens here, and happens in small places like this, where not everybody has. We feel not. I wish everybody down the street we're in Georgetown, so down the street at Georgetown, or up the street at American, or across town at Catholic. I wish their theater students could have our experience.
That's great. You remind me again, Charlie Cook, the old Cook Report. I had breakfast with him around Christmas time, and with the election and the public discourse, and you said the many troubles that we had, someone from the audience asked him, are you hopeful or not? And I've always described myself as a despairing optimist. I am hopeful, but I do despair. I'm an Irish guy too.
It's in the blood.
I despair. I must despair at times. But
what are you going to do from 11:30 at night on?
Right. All the
Irish do.
I'm going to call you. But this is what he said, and I thought about what he said, and it took me some time to agree with him. He said that Gen Z, this generation, is going to save us because they must.
Yeah. Because
they have to think differently about education. They have to think differently about entrepreneurial activity. They have to think different about debt and business, and marriage and the environment and all these sort of things. They're gonna save us because they have to. It's like a force at second base. Why? Because why does he step on the bag? Because he must. Yeah. Right? Because he must. And
that makes it our job, Jerry.
Yeah.
To do what we can.
Yes.
And with discipline, with understanding, with with okay, let's rethink this. But it still is our job. They're and I agree wholeheartedly, but and it's all because part of that is, unfortunately, our schools are doing a little too much parenting.
Yes, that's another podcast. That's another show.
I know. Oh my gosh! But it's also our job to say, no.
Yes.
If you want to succeed, that's not going to get you there.
Yeah,
you can't succeed. Which
right.
We got that a lot.
Yeah,
we got Raymond. You'll never be this. You'll never be that. Well, I'm half of those things now that I was told.
My father was. What are you going to do? What are you going to do when you're in a trench and the enemy's?
Yeah, right. I know all of these big analogies.
Yes.
All I want to do is take a dance class, Dad. What are you gonna do when the enemy's charging?
But for me, I wanted to go roller skating on a Friday night with my group of friends. What are you going to do when all you have to eat are these rations? I'm like, Dad.
Yeah.
I just want to go to the premise
roller
skating. But all right, this is awesome, and we have unfortunately begin to wrap it up. There's a lot here. This will be this is one of our best programs for lots of reasons, and we're going to promote it over at Real Clear Policy at the Federal Newswire, of course, who hosts the Business of America. But I have to ask about the Bedrocks before I let you go.
Sure.
I'm excited about this. I love the music that you make.
Thank you.
I think it's exactly what rock and roll should be two things, I think, and then three things. I'm sorry. I'll tell you in a third. The Fonz, Arthur Fonzarelli said, rock and roll should make you want to go into the parking lot and beat someone up. So there's that aspect of rock and roll, right?
Right.
The AC/DC kind of, thunderstruck. But also rock and roll should be fun. It doesn't always have to be heavy and angst and that sort of thing. And I think lastly, this is not just rock and roll, but just music generally. I like the music that tells a story. and your songs are fun. They don't make me want to beat anyone up. They make me want to kiss my wife though, which is good too.
Anything I can do to help.
but they should tell a story. And, and you're a good storyteller. So tell us a little bit about the Bedrocks.
Well, the Bedrocks is we were a band in college at Georgetown for about 9 months.
You were banned.
Yes.
Oh no, you were a band.
You were a band, yes.
All right, you weren't banned. I thought it was like you can't play here.
No, that was
like Elvis, right? Like Elvis with the hip.
We're banning all of this happiness. We were banned in college at Georgetown our senior year for about 9 months. Everyone went their separate ways. My dearest friend Rob Silich went on to med school. He was very successful. He was a Regis guy in Manhattan.
Sure.
Very successful doctor in Manhattan. We all spread all over the country. In 2015, I said, enough of this. The technology's there. Let's write some songs and let's get the band back together and let's play. And so we put out 10 singles in 10 years. We're now a musical collective where we're drawing on all these people to come in. We either converge in DC, in Georgetown, actually, at Water Street Sound. And we come in, we record a song, and it's fun music. People ask, people say, "Are you rockers?" And I say, "I love rock music. I love heavy music, but we're more, we're a little bit more pop rock."
Yes,
that's what we do. And the storytelling comes from the Irish side, from Uncle Pete, who would recite, "There are strange things done in the midnight sun by the men of Mile for gold." And what music is, Jerry, which encompasses everything you were talking about. It's life affirming.
Yes.
It is life affirming, that part of life that gives you so much energy you want to punch a wall, or gives you so much calm and grace you want to just say, "Hey, I'm lucky to be above ground right now." So it's really life affirming. And the Bedrocks on every major music platform, and hopefully they give folks a smile like they give you. But the Bedrocks are an artistic expression for me, so I can come back to my students. And this isn't just like mumbo jumbo, like, he's selling his school now. If I didn't do the Bedrocks, I don't think I would be as open with my students, because I have a creative outlet when I'm not on stage, when I'm not doing a film, when I'm not doing something. So, and today, like Keith Richards said, it's rock and roll.
I love it. It's rock and roll. I hope this podcast is rock and roll for those who like ideas and understand the importance of being an entrepreneur. This truly has been one of our best, the Business of America. I want to thank Ray Ficca again. Ray, we're going to make sure that a link to the Bedrocks, information on the school, all of this is included in the description of the podcast. But this has been great fun, and I say this to all our guests. In fact, I guess the first guest I don't say it to would be our worst show. I want you back again. There's so much to talk about in terms of you raised some issues like parenting and because you have insights there because of your experience at the school, about our culture and how to do better and how do we support the next generation. What's the future of education, higher education? There's a lot to unpack, and I think we did some of it here. It's a good start.
Yeah,
and we'll finish it. So to our audience again, I want to thank you. This has been a great experience bringing you this podcast. Enjoy this one because it's fantastic. Thank you. Rogers out.
This has been the Federal Newswire's Business of America podcast, hosted by Jerry Rogers. Check out the Federal Newswire's family of websites, as well as their social media stream